Star Wars is a saga shaped by countless wars throughout its long history. From the creation of the Jedi Order to the ancient conflicts between Jedi and Sith, the battles of the Clone Wars, the rise of the Empire, and the Galactic Civil War, each era has redefined the fate of the galaxy. We'll also explore the timeline after the fall of the Empire, the Thrawn Campaign, the return of Emperor Palpatine, the devastating Vuuzhon Vong War that sent the entire galaxy into chaos, and the conflicts that followed. This is the entire story of Star Wars' greatest stories in chronological order. Let's dive in with the Great Schism. The First Great Schism was one of the earliest recorded conflicts in galactic history, taking place around 24,500 BBY. This schism marked the first major divide between Force users, eventually leading to the creation of Dark Jedi. The war began when a faction of Jedi Knights, led by the ambitious Zendor, started experimenting with forbidden Force techniques that the Jedi Council had deemed too dangerous and destructive. Zendor and his followers believed that limiting themselves to only light side teachings severely restricted their understanding and mastery of the Force. To them, the Force was a dualistic entity that could not be fully comprehended without exploring its darker aspects. The Orthodox Jedi, seeing this departure as a grave threat not only to their teachings, but to the stability of the galaxy itself, confronted these dissenting Jedi. Zendor, along with his followers, formed the Legion of Leto, the first organized army of dark side practitioners. This marked the formal beginning of the conflict, which quickly spread across multiple systems as the two factions fought for their differing views on the true nature of the Force. The Orthodox Jedi believed that dark side was inherently corruptive, leading to madness and devastation, while Zendor's followers argued that embracing both sides of the Force would allow for greater growth and power. The conflict reached its climax during the Battle of Culminating, where Zendor himself faced off against Jedi Master Pina, known as the Green Blade for his unique skill with a green-bladed lightsaber. Despite Zendor's formidable dark side abilities, the battle ended with his death, a turning point that led to the eventual defeat of his followers. The remaining Dark Jedi were forced into exile, fleeing to the distant Outer Rim territories. Though the schism was short-lived, its effects would be felt for millennia to come, setting a dangerous precedent for future conflicts between users of the light and dark sides of the Force. It also established a pattern in galactic history, as the ideological rifts within the Jedi Order often had galaxy-spanning consequences. In the wake of the First Great Schism, tensions with the Jedi Order were never fully resolved. Though the Dark Jedi were expelled, their teachings survived in the shadows, periodically re-emerging to challenge the Jedi's strict adherence to the light side. These ideological disputes set the stage for future conflicts, the most significant of which was the 100-Year Darkness. The 100-Year Darkness began around 7000 BBY when a group of radical Jedi, led by Ajunta Pall, defied the Jedi Council's restrictions on certain Force techniques. These Dark Jedi delved into forbidden aspects of the Force, particularly focusing on dark side alchemy. Through these experiments, they developed methods to manipulate and corrupt life, creating monstrous, abominable creatures that they used as weapons. The Jedi Council, recognizing the growing danger posed by these rogue Jedi, moved to stop them. This sparked a century-long war that engulfed the galaxy in destruction. The Dark Jedi, using their alchemically enhanced warriors and monstrous creations, laid siege to multiple Republic worlds, pushing the Jedi Order to its limits. Some of the creatures created during this period were so dangerous that they continued to haunt the galaxy for thousands of years, becoming legends of terror in the Outer Rim and beyond. The war culminated in the Battle of Korbos, where the combined forces of the Jedi Order and the Republic finally managed to defeat the Dark Jedi. However, the cost was immense, with entire planets ravaged and populations decimated by the conflict. In the aftermath, the surviving Dark Jedi were exiled from Republic space. These exiles eventually discovered the remote planet of Korriban, home to the ancient Sith species. The Dark Jedi subjugated the native Sith people and established themselves as rulers, giving rise to the Sith Order. This moment marked the true birth of the Sith as an organized and formidable dark side power. The 100-Year Darkness was a watershed moment in galactic history, solidifying the division between the Jedi and the Sith. It introduced dark side alchemy as a potent force, and many of the techniques developed during this period would be passed down through generations of Sith, eventually becoming a cornerstone of their dark practices. The war also demonstrated the devastating potential of unchecked dark side experimentation, and set the stage for future conflicts between the light and dark sides of the Force. The Great-Hyperspace War erupted in 5000 BBY when two Republic hyperspace explorers, Gav and Jory Daragon, accidentally discovered the hidden Sith Empire on Korriban while searching for new hyperspace routes. The Sith Empire, long isolated from the Republic, had grown strong under the leadership of powerful Sith lords like Tulak Hord and Marka Ragnos. When the explorers arrived, they were captured and brought before Naga Sadow, a Sith lord with ambitions to expand Sith rule beyond their borders. Sadow, recognizing an opportunity to conquer the Republic, used the explorers to stage a daring escape, manipulating events to provoke a war with the Republic. Against the more cautious wishes of his Sith peers, Sadow launched a full-scale invasion on the Republic, catching the unprepared galaxy completely off guard. His fleet, bolstered by dark-side sorcery, made early gains, conquering several systems and spreading fear across the galaxy. Sadow's mastery of Sith sorcery allowed him to create powerful illusions, making his invasion force appear far larger than it actually was. This tactic proved effective in the early stages of the war as Republic forces struggled to mount a coordinated defense. As the war dragged on, the Republic and the Jedi began to adapt to the Sith tactics. The turning point came when Naga Sadow's deception was exposed during a crucial battle, breaking his concentration and revealing the true size of his fleet. With the illusion shattered, the Republic launched a massive counteroffensive, pushing the Sith forces back. The war culminated in Sadow's defeat, and the remnants of the Sith Empire retreated into obscurity, seemingly vanishing from galactic affairs. Although the Sith teachings endured, their once unified empire fractured. Without a central authority to bind them together, these fragmented Sith groups were torn apart by infighting, greed, and ambition. Dark-side knowledge persisted through hidden tombs, ancient holocrons, and secretive sects like the Krath and the Brotherhood of the Sith, but the once great empire had fallen silent. While the Republic and the Jedi believed they had eradicated the Sith menace, their lust for power and revenge lived on, simmering in the shadows across several worlds in the galaxy. Among those remnants, one Sith would rise above all others: Darth Vitiate. A brilliant and ruthless Sith Lord, Vitiate sought not just power, but immortality itself. On his homeworld of Nathema, he conducted a catastrophic ritual, absorbing the life force of every living being on the planet. This dark act left Nathema a lifeless, desolate void in the Force, and in return, Vitiate achieved immortality. Declaring himself Emperor of the Sith, Vitiate gathered the remnants of the Sith Empire and led them to the remote world of Dromund Kaas. There, in secret, he rebuilt the Sith Empire, biding his time and waiting for the right moment to strike back at the Republic. Though the Republic emerged victorious, the Great-Hyperspace War exposed the galaxy to the lingering threat of the Sith. It also solidified the Jedi's role as the Republic's protectors, setting the stage for future conflicts between the Republic and the Sith. The Old Sith Wars, a series of interconnected conflicts spanning from 4000 to 3960 BBY, nearly destroyed the Galactic Republic. This tumultuous period began when the Great Sith War with Exar Kun, a former Jedi Knight, embraced the dark side and began training in the ancient Sith teachings on Yavin 4. Kun's journey to becoming Dark Lord of the Sith began with his obsession with forbidden knowledge, leading him to the tomb world of Korriban, where the spirit of Marka Ragnos anointed him as the new Dark Lord. Kun then uncovered the teachings of Naga Sadow on Yavin 4, gaining immense power and fully embracing the Sith mantle. His most significant convert was Ulic Qel-Droma, a skilled Jedi Knight who had initially sought to infiltrate the Sith, but ultimately fell under Kun's influence, helping to spread the Sith's corrupting influence across the galaxy. Together, Kun and Qel-Droma formed a powerful Sith Brotherhood, uniting various darkside practitioners, Mandalorian Crusaders, and the criminal Krath cult into a formidable force. Their singular mission: conquer the Republic worlds that have dealt the Sith so much pain and declare a new golden age of the Sith. Their war against the Republic was devastating, with many key systems falling under their control. The Sith Brotherhood's influence spread rapidly. One of the most catastrophic events of the Old Sith Wars was the destruction of the Kron Cluster, a system of stars that Kun triggered to explode with the help of an ancient superweapon of the Sith. The resulting supernova sent a massive shockwave through nearby systems, including the Jedi library world of Ossus, which was devastated by the blast. In the chaos, the Sith looted countless Jedi artifacts, sacred texts, and ancient holocrons, further consolidating their power. The loss of Ossus was a significant blow to the Jedi Order, depriving them of centuries of knowledge and forcing them to regroup. The war eventually ended with the defeat of Kun and Keldroma. After killing his brother in a duel, Keldroma was stripped of the Force by a Jedi, severing his connection to the dark side and filling him with remorse. Overcome with guilt, he turned on Exar Kun and led the Jedi to Yavin 4, Kun's home base. As the Jedi launched a massive assault, Kun attempted a dark ritual to detach his spirit from his body, but his spirit became trapped within the temples of Yavin 4. Keldroma then went on and helped the Republic dismantle the remaining Sith forces. In the aftermath of the Great Sith War, the Republic was left severely weakened, having spent a lot of resources. Now, dear expert commenters, to be real, this section is the one I had to research the most on, as I didn't have a lot of prior knowledge on it. Let me know if I missed anything important, and let's move on to my favorite part in the Old Republic. The Mandalorian Wars began in 3976 BBY, when the Mandalorian clans, led by Mandalore the Ultimate, embarked on a campaign of conquest at the edge of Republic space. The Mandalorians, a warrior culture that valued strength and glory in battle, sought new challenges and deliberately provoked the Republic by attacking non-member worlds. Despite these aggressive actions, the Jedi Council refused to intervene, sensing a greater unseen threat behind the Mandalorian aggression. The Republic's reluctance to engage allowed the Mandalorians to gain a foothold, conquering several systems and building momentum for a larger invasion. The Mandalorian army, bolstered by their advanced combat techniques and brutal tactics, laid waste to entire worlds. On Serroco, the Mandalorians used nuclear weapons to obliterate the planet's cities, and the devastation of Cathar nearly wiped out the Cathar species. These atrocities demonstrated the Mandalorians' willingness to use extreme measures to achieve victory. As the Republic struggled to mount an effective defense, a faction of Jedi led by Revan and his apprentice Malak defied the Jedi Council's orders and joined the war. Revan, a brilliant military strategist, quickly turned the tide of the conflict. His leadership inspired more Jedi to join the fight, and under his command, the Republic forces began to push the Mandalorians back. Revan's use of unconventional tactics and his willingness to embrace morally ambiguous decisions made him a controversial figure within the Jedi Order, but his successes on the battlefield were undeniable. The war reached its climax in the Battle of Malachor V, a pivotal confrontation that would have far-reaching consequences. During the battle, Revan ordered the activation of the Mass Shadow Generator, a superweapon designed to create intense gravitational forces that would crush entire fleets. The generator's activation resulted in the complete destruction of both Republic and Mandalorian forces caught in its range. The surface of Malachor V was transformed into a twisted graveyard of shattered ships and debris, and the planet became a nexus of dark-side energy. Revan's victory over the Mandalorians was absolute, but the cost was staggering. Mandalore the Ultimate was defeated in single combat by Revan, ending the Mandalorian threat. In his dying breaths, Mandalore the Ultimate revealed that the war had been instigated by a mysterious figure from the unknown regions. This revelation, combined with the devastation caused by the Mass Shadow Generator, deeply haunted Revan and Malak. Their trauma, exposure to the dark side on Malachor V, and the desire to uncover the identity of this enigmatic puppet master drove them down a dark path that would ultimately lead to their fall. The Jedi Civil War erupted shortly after the Mandalorian Wars, when Revan and Malak, who had disappeared into the unknown regions following their victory, returned as Sith Lords with a massive invasion fleet. During their absence, they discovered the remnants of the ancient Sith Empire and fallen to the dark side due to the influence of the Sith Emperor Darth Vitiate, the same Sith Lord that centuries ago became immortal. Now adopting the titles of Darth Revan and Darth Malak, their return marked the beginning of one of the most devastating conflicts in galactic history. Revan and Malak's intimate knowledge of Republican Jedi tactics made them particularly dangerous opponents. Their forces included many former Republic officers and Jedi who had served under them during the Mandalorian Wars, now turned to the dark side and serving their cause. The Sith fleet launched precision strikes against key Republic worlds, using strategies that Revan and Malak had developed during their time as Republic heroes. The war was brutal, with entire systems falling under Sith control as Revan and Malak sought to impose their dark vision on the galaxy. The tide of the war turned when a Jedi strike team, led by Bastila Shan, managed to get on board Revan's flagship to confront Revan. The Jedi were just about to engage Revan when Malak, seeing the chance to overthrow Revan, opened fire on Revan's ship, attempting to kill the Jedi strike team alongside Revan. However, the strike team survived, along with Revan, who was gravely injured and on the brink of death. He was brought back to the Jedi Council where his memory was erased and given a new identity. The Jedi hoped to use Revan's knowledge of the Sith to turn the tide of the war, though they kept his true identity a secret. With Revan gone, Malak assumed the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith and proved to be an even more ruthless leader. Under his command, the Sith forces intensified their attacks, reducing entire worlds to ash. One of Malak's most infamous acts was the bombardment of Telos IV, which left the planet in ruins. His reign would be short-lived, however, as a newly turned Revan alongside the Republic started mounting a counteroffensive, which concluded on board the Starforge, an ancient superweapon fueled by the dark side, which Malak was using to produce seemingly limitless ships and war machines. There, Revan faced Malak in one-on-one combat, defeating him and bringing the Jedi Civil War to an end. The Jedi Civil War had far-reaching consequences for both the Jedi Order and the Republic. The conflict had decimated the Jedi, leaving them vulnerable to future threats. It also set the stage for the Dark Wars as the remnants of the Sith continued to plot in the shadows. The Dark Wars followed immediately after the Jedi Civil War, plunging the galaxy into a period of darkness and fear yet again. During this time, a triumvirate of Sith Lords, Darth Nihilus, Darth Sion, and Darth Traya, rose to power. These Sith Lords sought to reshape the galaxy according to their twisted visions of power. Nihilus was driven by his endless hunger, only wanting to consume life force, while Sion, an immortal being held together by sheer hatred, sought to impose his will through fear and pain, being a more traditional Sith. Traya, on the other hand, a former Jedi Master, sought revenge against both the Jedi and the Sith, believing that both orders had failed the galaxy, wanting them to both be destroyed. She manipulated the events transpiring from behind the scenes and set the stage for the final confrontations of the Dark Wars. The Dark Wars were characterized not by large-scale battles, but by the systematic hunting and extermination of the Jedi. Nihilus, Sion, and Traya employed shadow tactics, ambushes, and assassinations to decimate the already weakened Jedi Order. One of the most devastating attacks during this period was the destruction of the planet Kotor, home to a colony of Jedi who had gathered to discuss how to rebuild the Order. Nihilus consumed the entire planet's life force in an instant, killing all who were present and further demoralizing the survivors, leaving the Jedi Order on the brink of extinction. The Dark Wars eventually came to an end when a lone Jedi exile, Mitra Surik, who was banished by the Jedi Order due to her involvement in activating the mass shadow generator, confronted and defeated the Sith Lords one by one. Traya, who had once been the exile's mentor, revealed that she had orchestrated much of the conflict in an attempt to test Surik's resolve, believing she could either restore balance or end the Force itself. Traya hoped that Surik would abandon the flawed teachings of both the Jedi and the Sith, embracing a new philosophy that would reshape the galaxy. However, Surik rejected Traya's nihilistic vision, choosing instead to uphold the Jedi principles she had rediscovered. With the Sith defeated, the galaxy and the Jedi Order were left to rebuild once more. The redeeming factor in the defeat of the Sith Triumvirate was that the Jedi and the Republic were able to purge the known galaxy of the Sith, recapturing all planets lost during the last wars, including those from the Great Sith War. A period of peace and stability was on the horizon. The Great Galactic War erupted in 3681 BBY when the Sith Empire, which had been building its strength in secret for centuries, launched a massive surprise attack against the Republic. Led by the immortal Sith Emperor Vitiate, the Emperor had long prepared for this moment, carefully biding its time while the Republic grew complacent. Their preparations dated back to the Mandalorian Wars, when Emperor Vitiate manipulated Mandalore the Ultimate into attacking the Republic to test its strength. However, the Empire's attack was delayed for centuries due to the intervention of the Jedi Knight Revan. After discovering the Emperor's plans, Revan launched a bold mission to confront Vitiate directly, hoping to eliminate the Sith leader and prevent the war. Although Revan failed in his attempt and was captured, in his capture he continued to influence the Emperor's mind, forcing the Sith to delay their invasion for several centuries. Eventually, the day came and the Empire struck, catching the Republic completely off guard. The Sith Empire had quietly amassed a powerful military, equipped with advanced technologies and battle-hardened soldiers. Their first major victory was the recapture of Korriban, the ancient Sith homeworld. The Republic, still reeling from the sudden onslaught, scrambled to defend its territories as the Sith launched simultaneous assaults on key locations throughout the galaxy. The Sith Emperor's strategy was clear: overwhelm the Republic with swift and devastating attacks to cripple their defenses and force them into submission. The Sith Empire also made extensive use of terror tactics to weaken the morale of Republic worlds. Cities were razed, and entire populations were enslaved or massacred to demonstrate the consequences of defying the Empire. This ruthless strategy spread fear across the galaxy, causing some planets to surrender without a fight, preferring subjugation over destruction. As the Republic began to mount a defense, the Jedi Order took up arms alongside the Republic's military. Jedi Knights were deployed across the galaxy to lead Republic forces in defense of their worlds. These Jedi quickly became the primary targets of Sith assassins and dark-side warriors. The war descended into a brutal contest between the light and dark sides of the Force, with countless Jedi and Sith falling in battle. The war reached its most dramatic and decisive moment during the sacking of Coruscant in 3653 BBY. While peace talks were underway in Alderaan, the Sith Empire launched a surprise attack on the Republic capital. Led by Darth Malgus, a Sith Lord renowned for his ruthlessness and tactical brilliance, the Sith stormed the city, destroying the Jedi Temple and conquering Coruscant. The sacking of Coruscant forced the Republic to sign the Treaty of Coruscant, a humiliating peace agreement that granted the Sith control over vast territories and effectively ended the war on terms heavily favoring the Sith. However, this peace was a fragile one. While the treaty brought an end to open warfare, it did not resolve the underlying tensions between the Republic and the Sith Empire. The galaxy entered a period of Cold War. The Cold War, lasting from 3653 to 3642 BBY, was a tense period of political maneuvering and covert conflicts between the Galactic Republic and the Sith Empire. Although the Treaty of Coruscant had officially ended the Great Galactic War, the peace was little more than temporary ceasefire. Both sides knew that open conflict could reignite at any moment, and so they used the time to consolidate their gains, rebuild their forces, and engage in covert operations to undermine their enemy. The Sith Empire, having secured control of key worlds and trade routes, spent this period solidifying its dominance over its newly acquired territories. The Sith Emperor, still hidden from public view, directed the Empire's efforts to increase its military might and tighten its grip on the galaxy. The Sith ruled their domains with an iron fist, enforcing loyalty through fear and brutality. Meanwhile, the Republic struggled to rebuild. The loss of Coruscant and the damage inflicted by the war had severely weakened the Republic's infrastructure and economy. In addition to rebuilding its military, the Republic had to focus on winning back the trust of its member worlds, many of which had grown disillusioned by the war's toll. The Jedi Order, which had suffered significant losses during the war, also faced the challenge of reconstituting its ranks and preparing for the inevitable resurgence of Sith aggression. The Cold War between the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic, though officially a ceasefire, was fraught with tension, espionage, and covert operations. This fragile peace finally broke down in 3642 BBY, reigniting into what became known as the Galactic War. It saw the Republic and the Sith Empire once again battling for control of the galaxy, as the uneasy truce gave way to full-scale warfare. Emperor Vitiate's goals, however, ran far deeper than mere conquest. His true ambition was the performance of a devastating ritual that would allow him to drain the life force of the entire galaxy, achieving immortality and godlike power in the process. Vitiate had been preparing for this apocalyptic ritual since conducting the same ritual on Nathema centuries ago. The deaths caused by the ongoing conflict would fuel a new ritual that would allow him to consume almost everything in the galaxy and become an all-powerful god. The Jedi, as well as the Sith, after learning of the Emperor's true intentions, started colluding together to stop the Emperor's ritual. They succeeded and forced him to retreat back to Dromund Kaas. The Republic, now gathering their strength, launched a daring invasion of the Sith capital, aiming to bring an end to the Emperor once and for all. During what is to be known as the Battle of Dromund Kaas, the long-standing reign of Emperor Vitiate came to a climactic end. As Republic forces assaulted the planet, the hero of Tython, a legendary Jedi Knight, led a team deep into the Dark Temple, where Vitiate had retreated. In the face of overwhelming dark-side power, the hero engaged Vitiate in a final confrontation. Despite his near-godlike abilities and millennia of preparation, the Sith Emperor was finally defeated. The hero struck down Vitiate's form, seemingly ending the threat he had posed to the galaxy for centuries. Following the Emperor's death, the Republic and Sith Empire fought on, unaware of a greater hidden threat looming on the horizon. The Eternal Empire, led by the enigmatic Emperor Valkorion, was preparing to make its move. While the galaxy's major factions exhausted their resources fighting each other, the Eternal Empire quietly gathered its strength in the unknown regions of the galaxy, poised to strike at both sides. The galaxy was caught completely off guard when the Eternal Empire of Zakuul, a previously unknown faction from the Unknown Regions, launched a massive invasion in 3635 BBY. Under the rule of Emperor Valkorion, secretly the same individual as the Sith Emperor Vitiate, the Eternal Empire quickly subjugated both the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic. The revelation of Valkorion's dual identity as Emperor Vitiate stemmed from his desire for ultimate power and immortality, which transcended the Sith ideology he once led. Having grown disillusioned with the Sith and their constant infighting, Vitiate created the Eternal Empire as a new means to conquer and dominate the galaxy on his own terms. Now ruling as Valkorion, he sought to destroy both the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic, seeing them as mere stepping stones in his quest to reshape the galaxy under his vision of eternal rule. The conquest was swift and decisive, as the Eternal Fleet, Valkorion's near-indestructible armada of automated warships, overwhelmed the military forces of both the Republic and Sith galactic superpowers. The Eternal Empire represented a new kind of galactic domination. Unlike the Sith, who ruled through fear and dark side oppression, or the Republic, who was built on democratic ideals, the Eternal Empire enforced order through sheer military might and technological superiority. Zakuul's forces were highly advanced, and Valkorion's leadership was a mix of cold efficiency and brutal control. Valkorion portrayed himself as a benevolent ruler who could bring stability to the galaxy. During this period, both the Sith Empire and Republic were forced to submit to Zakuul's authority. They became vassal states, paying tribute to the Eternal Empire and being stripped of much of their autonomy. Both factions were powerless against the Eternal Fleet, and many of their systems were devastated by Zakuul's relentless attacks. While the galaxy endured Valkorion's reign, internal strife simmered within the Eternal Empire. Valkorion's son, Arkan, played a central role in the regime, but harbored his own ambitions. Disillusioned with his father's rule, Arkan began to plot against him. At the same time, the Outlander, a powerful figure who'd been a key leader in the war between the Sith Empire and Galactic Republic, entered the scene. Alongside Darth Mar, the formidable leader of the Sith Empire's Dark Council, the Outlander sought to destroy Valkorion and end the threat to the Eternal Empire. In their quest to confront this growing danger, both Mar and the Outlander were captured and brought before Valkorion himself. In this fateful encounter, Valkorion demonstrated his overwhelming power by killing Darth Mar, obliterating the Sith Lord in a single decisive moment. This was the moment when Arkan seized his opportunity and betrayed his father, killing Valkorion. The Outlander was spared and taken prisoner. Valkorion's death, however, was not the end of him, as his spirit latched on to the Outlander, influencing the Outlander's thoughts and decisions. Following Valkorion's assassination by his son Arkan, the galaxy found itself under the control of an even more ruthless ruler. Arkan took the throne and led the Eternal Empire with an iron fist, seeking to continue his father's vision of galactic dominance, but without Valkorion's subtlety or restraint. His reign was characterized by increased brutality, as Arkan sought to cement his legacy and expand the Eternal Empire's control even further. During this period, resistance movements began to emerge. Dissidents from both the Republic and Sith Empire, as well as independent factions, banded together to form the Alliance, a unified coalition dedicated to overthrowing the Eternal Empire. For the first time, Jedi and Sith were fighting side by side against a greater evil. The Alliance was led by the Outlander, who had escaped her imprisonment on Zakuul. Despite the overwhelming power of the Eternal Empire, the Alliance began to strike back, engaging in guerrilla warfare and launching strategic assaults on key Zakuulan targets. Over time, the Alliance gathered strength, recruiting soldiers, Jedi, Sith, and even defectors from the Eternal Empire itself. Key victories, including the destruction of Zakuulan bases and successful sabotage of the Eternal Fleet, emboldened the rebellion. As Arkan's grip on the galaxy tightened, internal dissent also grew within the Eternal Empire. His sister, Vaylin, was a powerful Force user with even greater ambition than Arkan. Vaylin had been kept under tight control by Valkorion due to her uncontrollable power, but with her father's death, she began to seek her own path to dominance. The rebellion reached a critical point when the Alliance launched a direct assault on Arkan's throne. The Outlander, alongside the Alliance's most elite forces, confronted Arkan in a climactic battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. After a fierce struggle, Arkan was defeated and forced into exile. With his downfall, his sister Vaylin stepped in and seized control of the Eternal Empire, intent on solidifying her rule and destroying the Alliance. Valen's reign was even more chaotic and destructive than her brother's. Unrestrained by any moral or familial bonds, she unleashed her full power, devastating entire worlds and subjugating those who opposed her. The galaxy was plunged into even greater chaos as the Alliance prepared for its final confrontation with Valen and the remnants of the Eternal Empire. In the final battle, Valen was defeated by the Outlander and the Alliance. However, the final confrontation was yet to come. The power of the Outlander was granted to him by the spirit of Valkorion influencing him. Now with both Arcan and Valen removed, the former Emperor's spirit attempted to possess the Outlander, seeking to regain control and continue his quest for galactic domination. In a climactic showdown with the Outlander's mind, Valkorion's spirit was finally destroyed, finally ending the Immortal Emperor's millennia-long reign of terror. With the death of Valen and the final destruction of Valkorion's spirit, the Eternal Empire began to collapse. The Eternal Fleet, once the unstoppable force that had subjugated the galaxy, fell into disarray without Valkorion's control. Many of the systems that had been under the thumb of Zakuul rose up in rebellion, overthrowing the local Zakuulan authorities and reclaiming their independence. The Alliance, now recognized as the key force that had defeated the Eternal Empire, helped guide the rebuilding efforts in both the Republic and Sith Empire. Though the Eternal Empire was no longer a threat, the galaxy was left in a fragile state, with both the Republic and Sith forces weakened by years of war and occupation. The galaxy began to enter one of its dark ages. The Republic slowly shrank down to little more than the core worlds, while the Sith Empire disintegrated into warlordism. Everything beyond the Mid-Rim sank into barbarism, dominated by petty tyrannies and Sith warlords. For nearly 1,000 years, peace reigned in the galaxy after the Sith Empire's disappearance. However, around 2000 BBY, the Sith re-emerged under Darth Ruin, a former Jedi Master who defected after rejecting the Jedi's teachings. Ruin's dark philosophy attracted several Jedi, sparking the Fourth Great Schism and rebuilding the Sith into a new empire. Though Ruin united the Sith for a time, his self-centered leadership led to his assassination by his own followers, but the Sith Empire continued to grow once again. Over time, the Sith began to splinter though. While Ruin had initially unified the Sith Empire, the nature of Sith philosophy, rooted in betrayal and ambition, led to infighting among the Sith Lords. Various factions within the Sith Empire vied for control, and their internal power struggles weakened their ability to mount a unified offensive against the Republic. However, despite their internal divisions, the Sith continued to pose a serious threat to the galaxy. Over the next millennium, the new Sith Wars raged, with the Sith nearly overwhelming the Republic. However, their inherent infighting weakened them, preventing a decisive victory, having them fall apart time and time again. In 1010 BBY, Shere Khan reunited the Sith under the Brotherhood of Darkness for a final time. It is during this time, around 1000 BBY, that a prominent figure known as Darth Bane would rise and change the tide of the war decisively. Bane, a Sith Lord who had grown disillusioned with the constant infighting among the Sith, recognized that the very structure of the Sith Order was flawed. He believed that the Sith's numbers and internal rivalries were what prevented them from achieving true power. The Jedi Sith War eventually culminated in the Battle of Vuuzhan, a devastating confrontation where all remaining Sith under Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness were killed by a ploy set by Darth Bane. The Republic, with the support of the Jedi Order, finally managed to defeat the Sith armies on Vuuzhan, and the Sith were believed to have been destroyed. However, unbeknownst to the Jedi, Darth Bane and his apprentice Darth Zana survived in secret, ensuring the survival of the Sith Order through the Rule of Two. The rule called for only 2 Sith at any given time, a Master and an Apprentice. This doctrine would prevent the power struggles that plagued the Sith for generations and ensure that the dark side's teachings were passed on through a single, unbroken line. Bane and his apprentice Darth Zana went into hiding, preparing for the day when they could strike back against the Jedi and the Republic. The Jedi-Sith War left the galaxy in ruins, with both the Jedi and the Republic severely weakened. Though the Republic emerged victorious, the cost of the war was immense, and the Jedi Order, once again depleted, turned its focus inward to rebuild and heal from the long years of conflict. The Sith, though seemingly defeated, would continue to bide their time, waiting for the moment when they could strike from the shadows and bring about the fall of the Jedi and the Republic, which a certain individual we're all too familiar with will be achieving in time. The era of open warfare between the Jedi and Sith has come to an end, and the galaxy is poised to enter a new age of relative peace and stability. The Republic is about to embark on a period of recovery and prosperity. This upcoming era is known as the High Republic era, a golden age of peace and growth, during which the Republic would expand its influence to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, rebuilding its strength and flourishing once again. During this time, the Jedi Order reached its zenith as the Guardians of Peace and Justice, operating not as warriors, but as diplomats, explorers, and teachers. They patrolled the Outer Rim territories, helping to expand the Republic's influence into frontier worlds and ensuring stability in distant regions. The High Republic was characterized by a strong and harmonious relationship between the Jedi and the Republic government, with the Jedi being seen as noble peacekeepers who could be called upon to resolve any crisis. The invasion of Naboo in 32 BBY began when the Trade Federation, a powerful and profit-driven organization led by Viceroy Newt Gunray, initiated a blockade around the small planet of Naboo. At the heart of this invasion was the Trade Federation's objection to the newly imposed Republic taxes on trade routes, a policy they saw as a direct attack on their profits. Under the hidden influence of the Sith Lord Darth Caedus, the Trade Federation's leaders were drawn into a scheme far darker and more treacherous than they realized. Following the Sith Order's apparent extinction from the galaxy after Darth Bane's establishment of the Rule of Two, the Sith had seemingly vanished from the galactic stage, yet Darth Sidious and his master Darth Plagueis had been working in the shadows, orchestrating these events to advance their plan for galactic domination. Queen Padme Amidala, the young ruler of Naboo, watched as her planet was surrounded by massive Trade Federation battleships, cutting off all access to and from her world. Her attempts at diplomacy within the Senate fell short, as the bureaucratic process stalled and key politicians hesitated to intervene. With the blockade in place, the Trade Federation's armies invaded Naboo, deploying legions of battle droids to capture the capital city of Theed. The citizens of Naboo, a peaceful people with no standing army, were swiftly overwhelmed. Entire villages were occupied, and Queen Amidala herself was captured and held under house arrest in her own palace. The Trade Federation's actions sent shockwaves through the galaxy, challenging the Republic's ability to protect its members and exposing the Senate's vulnerability to corporate influence. Amidala's capture, however, was short-lived. Two Jedi Knights, Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi, were dispatched by the Jedi Council to negotiate with the Trade Federation, but were quickly targeted for assassination on Sidious's orders. Escaping with their lives, the Jedi made their way to Naboo, where they helped Queen Amidala escape the Trade Federation's control and seek aid from the Republic. During their flight, they made an unexpected stop on Tatooine, where Qui-Gon discovered a Force-sensitive slave boy named Anakin Skywalker, who's said to carry the potential to bring balance to the Force, being the chosen one for that. On Tatooine, the Jedi received their first unsettling glimpse of the Sith's return when Darth Maul ambushed Qui-Gon Jinn, engaging him in a fierce duel just as Qui-Gon was about to make his escape. Escaping Maul, the squad makes it safely to Coruscant to plea for help from the Senate. However, Amidala's plea for help was met with political inaction, as influential senators and bureaucrats prioritized personal agendas over justice. Seeing the Republic's weakness, she called for a vote of no confidence in Supreme Chancellor Valorum, leading to his removal and the election of Senator Palpatine of Naboo as the new Chancellor, a position that would serve Sidious's agenda in the years to come and reveal itself to be the reason that he initiated the blockade in the first place. After his election as Chancellor, Palpatine took the final step to solidify his path to ultimate power by killing his master Darth Plagueis in his sleep. This act of treachery not only eliminated the only being powerful enough to potentially challenge him, but also marked his ascension as the sole Dark Lord of the Sith. With his master gone, Palpatine was free to enact his grand plan without any interference. The final battle took place on the plains of Naboo, where Queen Amidala, allied with the indigenous Gungan warriors, led a counteroffensive to reclaim her planet. The Gungan Grand Army, led by the great General Jar Jar Binks, bravely fought the Trade Federation's battle droids, while Amidala's forces infiltrated the palace to capture Viceroy Gunray. Meanwhile, in Theed's hangar, the Jedi confronted Darth Maul. In a fierce duel, Maul mortally wounded Qui-Gon, only to be defeated by Obi-Wan, who struck him down with his master's lightsaber. The battle is ultimately won when a young Anakin Skywalker destroys the Trade Federation control ship, thus deactivating the droids on the ground down below. With the Trade Federation's forces defeated and Gunray captured, the invasion of Naboo came to an end. However, the conflict left its effects on the galaxy. While Naboo was liberated, the Republic's inability to respond decisively was exposed, and the seeds of distrust and political manipulation planted by Sidious would soon blossom into a galaxy-wide conflict. Anakin Skywalker, now taken as Obi-Wan's apprentice, began his path toward a destiny that would forever alter the course of galactic history. This invasion would be remembered as the first open strike in the Sith's hidden campaign to unravel the Republic, setting the stage for the turmoil that would lead to the fall of the Jedi and the dawn of the Empire. The Clone Wars began as a direct result of the political instability and manipulations that had taken root during the invasion of Naboo, a conflict that laid bare the Republic's weaknesses and set the stage for far greater turmoil. 10 years after Naboo's invasion, the galaxy was again thrown into chaos, this time by a full-scale civil war that would ultimately shape the fate of the Republic and the Jedi Order. The seeds of the Clone Wars were planted in the aftermath of Naboo's invasion, orchestrated by Darth Sidious, the now Supreme Chancellor of the Republic. Using his dual identity to control both sides of a growing galactic schism, Sidious engineered divisions that would ultimately fracture the Republic. Many systems, disillusioned by the Senate's corruption and inefficacy, began to rally behind Count Dooku, a charismatic former Jedi who publicly criticized the Republic's failures. Unbeknownst to most, Dooku was Sidious's new Sith apprentice, Darth Tyrannus, and he led a separatist movement designed to pull the galaxy into war. As the Separatist Alliance formed, gathering allies across hundreds of star systems, the threat of a large-scale conflict loomed even larger. The Republic's lack of a standing military became a glaring issue, one that the Senate was reluctant to address. However, with pressure mounting and Separatist forces expanding their reach, support for the Republic army grew. This led to the sudden revelation of a secret clone army on Kamino, commissioned by Jedi Master Sifo Dyas years earlier under mysterious circumstances. These clones, grown and trained specifically for warfare, were based on the genetic material of the Mandalorian bounty hunter Jango Fett, who also happened to serve as an agent for Darth Tyrannus. With the threat of separatist droid armies looming, the Republic swiftly approved the deployment of the clone army. The war officially began on the desert world of Geonosis, where Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi uncovered a separatist droid factory and discovered the massive droid army assembled to wage war against the Republic. Obi-Wan, Anakin Skywalker, and Senator Padme Amidala were captured while investigating, but were quickly rescued by the Jedi Order. The ensuing Battle of Geonosis saw the first deployment of the clone troopers, and the Jedi fought alongside them against the Separatists' seemingly endless droid forces. Although the Republic claimed victory, the battle was only the beginning of a conflict that would engulf the galaxy. As the war spread across star systems, the Jedi were pulled from their traditional role as peacekeepers and thrust into positions of military leadership. Jedi Knights and Masters, including Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and even Grandmaster Yoda became generals in the newly formed Grand Army of the Republic, leading clone battalions in countless battles. The Jedi's involvement would come at great cost, as many members of the Order began to question the ethical implications of leading an army bred solely for war, and the dark side grew ever stronger. Throughout the Clone Wars, Chancellor Palpatine's power continued to expand. He leveraged the crisis to consolidate unprecedented authority, often overriding the Senate and bending laws in the name of emergency powers. No one suspected that Palpatine himself was orchestrating the entire war to pit both sides against one another, draining the Republic's resources and drawing the Jedi into a position of vulnerability. The Clone Wars saw brutal battles and intense struggles, from the urban warfare of Christophsis to the haunting campaign on Umbara. Key victories and losses shaped the Republic, and the galaxy's hero became its tragic figure. Anakin Skywalker emerged as a war hero, but the ongoing war and his growing frustration with the Jedi Order limitations would push him closer to the dark side. At the heart of Sidious's plot was the manipulation that would forever alter the course of the galaxy: the fall of Anakin Skywalker. In his most desperate hour, Anakin succumbed to Sidious's promises to save his wife Padme. He pledged his allegiance to the dark side, receiving the new identity of Darth Vader, the apprentice Sidious had long desired. With Anakin's transformation into Vader, the Sith were poised to complete their millennia-old vendetta against the Jedi. Then, at the command of Darth Sidious, Order 66 was executed. Across battlefields and star systems, clone troopers turned on their Jedi leaders without hesitation. The Jedi, once revered as guardians of peace, were systematically purged, decimated in a single devastating act of treachery. Anakin, now Darth Vader, led an assault on the Jedi Temple, slaughtering all within its walls. even the younglings he had once vowed to protect. This horrific massacre marked the Sith's ultimate revenge and the near-total annihilation of the Jedi Order. For a millennium, despite countless wars and relentless conflict, the Jedi had always emerged resilient, standing as defenders of peace and justice. But never before had they suffered a defeat of this magnitude. Never in the entire history had they been driven so close to extinction, their numbers reduced to mere remnants scattered across the galaxy. The Sith had finally succeeded in nearly eradicating their ancient foes, achieving a triumph that had eluded them for generations. The Clone Wars ultimately were revealed as a grand deception, a war manufactured by Darth Caedus to destroy the Jedi and pave the way for the Empire. What had started as a simple trade dispute over the invasion of Naboo more than a decade earlier had spiraled into a galaxy-wide conflict, plunging billions into suffering and reshaping the very fabric of galactic governance. With the Republic gone and the Jedi nearly extinct, Sidious's empire rose from the ashes, and the Sith's ultimate victory was complete. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, destined to bring balance to the Force, had fallen into darkness, re-emerging as Darth Vader, the feared enforcer of the Emperor's new galactic empire and powerful ally of the Sith. The Galactic Civil War, spanning from 0 to 5 ABY, marked by the struggle between the oppressive Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance, a coalition of freedom fighters from across the galaxy determined to restore the Republic and bring fall to the Empire. The war's origins lay in the rise of Emperor Palpatine, who had transformed the Republic into a galactic empire following the Clone Wars. Using fear and the might of his Imperial forces, he maintained an iron grip on countless star systems, suppressing opposition and enforcing loyalty through brutal tactics. The tipping point of the war came with the construction of the Death Star, a massive space station capable of destroying entire planets. Meant as a weapon of ultimate control, the Death Star was also a symbol of the Empire's unrelenting power. However, the Alliance managed to acquire secret plans to the station, revealing a critical flaw. Led by Princess Leia Organa, the rebels fought to transmit these plans to their forces, despite Leia's capture by Darth Vader. Leia's call for help reached a young farm boy on Tatooine, Luke Skywalker, the son of Darth Vader, sparking his journey to join the rebellion and ultimately become a Jedi with the help of the exiled Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of the few survivors of the Clone Wars. The first significant victory of the Rebel Alliance came during the Battle of Yavin, where a small Rebel fleet launched a desperate assault on the Death Star. Luke, guided by the Force, delivered a perfect shot into the station's thermal exhaust port, triggering a chain reaction that destroyed the Death Star and dealt a crushing blow to the Empire. The victory at Yavin rallied countless systems to the Rebel cause, but it also intensified the Empire's resolve to eradicate the Alliance. Over the next few years, a war waged across numerous fronts. The Rebels established hidden bases in remote locations, while the Empire hunted them relentlessly. One of the war's most pivotal moments was the Battle of Hoth, where the Empire discovered and attacked the Rebel base on the icy planet of Hoth. Forced to evacuate, the Rebels suffered heavy losses, yet continued to elude the Empire and regroup to fight another day. As the conflict progressed, Luke Skywalker sought to strengthen his connection to the Force, training with Jedi Master Yoda on Dagobah in hopes of becoming the Jedi who could turn the tide against the Sith. Meanwhile, the Empire constructed a second Death Star, even more powerful than the first, and prepared to crush the rebellion once and for all. The Battle of Endor became the decisive confrontation of the Galactic Civil War. The Rebel Alliance, learning of the new Death Star's construction, launched a daring assault, while a ground team, including Han Solo and Leia Organa, worked with the native Ewoks to disable the Death Star's shield generator on Endor's forest moon. In space, the Rebel fleet fought against overwhelming odds, with Luke confronting Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine aboard the Death Star. Palpatine attempted to turn Luke to the dark side, but in a final act of redemption, Vader turned on his master and saved his son, killing Palpatine and seemingly ending the Sith's rule over the galaxy. Moments later, the Rebel fleet destroyed the Death Star, and the Empire suffered a catastrophic defeat. The Battle of Endor was a victory not only for the Alliance, but for all those who had suffered under the Empire's tyranny. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted as planets cast off Imperial rule. The death of the Emperor and the destruction of the Death Star left the Empire leaderless and fragmented, with countless worlds seizing the opportunity to liberate themselves. The Galactic Civil War, while technically continuing in skirmishes and pockets of resistance, was effectively won by the Rebel Alliance at Endor. The victory established the foundation for the New Republic and the rise of Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order, marking the beginning of a new era of freedom, justice, and hope across the galaxy under the governance of the New Republic. Following the defeat of the Galactic Empire at the Battle of Endor, the New Republic had taken control of much of the galaxy. With the Emperor and Darth Vader gone, the Empire fractured into territories controlled by warlords and local governors, and Imperial territory shrank to a fraction of its former size. The New Republic, though victorious, had also suffered heavy losses and struggled to maintain unity and order among its liberated worlds. In 9 ABY, a new threat emerged in the form of Grand Admiral Thrawn, a Chiss tactician who took command of the remaining Imperial fleet. Thrawn quickly earned the respect of influential Moffs and warlords, uniting them under his leadership by eliminating pirate threats and re-establishing Imperial control over their fractured forces. Raising his flag on the Star Destroyer Chimera and with Captain Gilad Pellaeon as his second-in-command, Thrawn launched a campaign to rebuild the Empire, believing the galaxy required a powerful and decisive military to defend against external threats. Unlike the Empire's reliance on fear and force, Thrawn's approach to battle was marked by precision and deep analysis of his enemies. He launched raids on New Republic supply lines and military installations to destabilize the Republic without risking large-scale battles, seeing as now they had limited resources compared to the New Republic. Using the Ysalamiri, creatures that create force-neutralizing bubbles, Thrawn protected himself from Jedi interference and manipulated Joruus C'baoth, an unstable Dark Jedi clone, into aiding his plans. In the meantime, Thrawn set out to gather new resources for his forces from the planet Wayland, which contained a lot of the Emperor's secret experiments. Among them were Sparti cloning cylinders, which he used to create his own clone army. One of Thrawn's first major victories came with the capture of the Katana fleet, a lost fleet of dreadnoughts from the Clone Wars which he got a hold of in a race before the New Republic and Luke Skywalker. Now that Thrawn had assembled a fleet strong enough to start the campaign properly, the galaxy saw intense battles and skirmishes across numerous star systems. Thrawn's guerrilla tactics forced the New Republic to spread its defenses thin, and their defensive efforts were futile against the strategic brilliance of the Grand Admiral, with several worlds falling under Imperial control. As the campaign progressed, Thrawn launched an assault on Coruscant in which he deployed 24 cloaked asteroids around the planet, creating the illusion of a much larger minefield by broadcasting signals that made it seem like there were over 300 cloaked asteroids in orbit. The New Republic, unable to detect these cloaked objects, was effectively blockaded, as any attempt to leave or enter Coruscant could lead to catastrophic collisions. This further demonstrated the strategic brilliance of Thrawn, as this siege isolated the Republic's leadership and disrupted its communication and operations, taking Coruscant out of the war without requiring a full fleet or sustained battle. As the New Republic scrambled to respond to Thrawn's relentless assaults, they urgently assembled a counteroffensive at the Bilbringi shipyards. With defeat seeming imminent, and hundreds of systems declaring neutrality or returning to the Empire, Admiral Ackbar devised a risky plan. He aimed to capture a sensor capable of detecting cloaked objects from Bilbringi to lift the siege of Coruscant. Ackbar also saw this as an opportunity to strike a decisive blow, disproving the myth of Thrawn's invincibility. To execute the plan, the New Republic gathered ships from across its territories, reshaping battle groups to bolster the fleet. Ackbar launched an assault on Bilbringi, hoping for a victory akin to the Battle of Endor. But Thrawn, anticipating their move, had prepared a trap, drawing the New Republic fleet into a brutal confrontation designed to crush their forces once and for all. During the battle at Bilbringi, the New Republic found themselves outmatched as Thrawn's tactics were overwhelming. On the brink of victory, however, Thrawn's campaign was abruptly halted due to numerous factors that even Thrawn couldn't anticipate. Leia Organa Solo had revealed to the Noghri, Thrawn's loyal bodyguards, that they had been deceived by the Empire. By exposing how the Empire had poisoned their homeworld of Honoghr and manipulated their loyalty through false aid, Leia shattered the Noghri's trust in Thrawn and the Empire. Rook, Thrawn's Noghri bodyguard, assassinated him aboard the Chimera, leaving his forces leaderless and marking the end of the brilliant Grand Admiral. Simultaneously, New Republic forces, including Luke Skywalker, Mara Jade, and Han Solo, destroyed the cloning facility on Wayland, cutting off Thrawn's supply of soldiers. Thrawn's death at Bilbringi shattered the cohesion he had built among the Imperial remnants. His loss created a power vacuum, triggering renewed infighting among Imperial factions. While the New Republic sustained considerable losses in the campaign, they had ultimately secured their control over the galaxy, allowing them a brief period of stability to regroup and consolidate power. Although the Imperial remnant continued to resist the New Republic for years to come, Thrawn's death marked the end of a unified Imperial threat. Gilad Pellaeon took the remaining forces loyal to Thrawn and retreated to the unknown regions. The New Republic solidified its position, and the defeat of Thrawn paved the way for a new era of hope and reconstruction across the galaxy. In 10 ABY, following the defeat of Thrawn, the New Republic faced a mysterious new threat. In a mission to disrupt the remaining Imperial forces, Luke Skywalker and Lando Calrissian were engaged in a skirmish above Coruscant. However, as they fought, Luke sensed a powerful disturbance in the Force, a dark, unnatural energy. At that moment, a massive force storm appeared, tearing through space-time and pulling Luke and his droid R2-D2 into its center. Luke and R2-D2 were transported to Biss, a remote world deep in the galaxy's core, shrouded in the dark side of the Force. There, Luke found himself face-to-face with a resurrected Palpatine, who had summoned the Force storm to bring him to Biss. Palpatine reveals to Luke that he had been using ancient Sith alchemy and built himself several clone bodies to allow him to stave off death, transferring his essence into the clones. The clones did deteriorate over time as they weren't able to hold Palpatine's essence for long. However, he had plenty of clones to transfer his essence into once the current clone had deteriorated completely. Palpatine, appearing younger and more powerful than ever, offered Luke a chance to join him as his apprentice. Luke, believing he could resist the Emperor's influence and hoping to dismantle the Empire from within, agreed, thinking he could turn the dark side's power against itself, and kneels to Palpatine, becoming his apprentice. While Luke struggled with Palpatine on Biss, the Emperor launched Operation Shadowhand, his master plan to reclaim control of the galaxy. He deployed fleets of world devastators, massive city-sized machines that consume planets for raw materials and use them to manufacture weapons and starships. The first target being Mon Calamari. Lando Calrissian led a defense force on Mon Calamari, but the New Republic's forces struggled against the seemingly unstoppable world devastators, which devoured entire cities and oceans. Back on Biss, R2-D2 was able to access the Emperor's control systems, discovering the master signal that controlled the world devastators, and transmitted a shutdown command, causing several of the machines to go offline mid-assault and saving Mon Calamari from complete destruction. Although the mission succeeded, Luke's hold on the light side continued to weaken as Palpatine's dark influence grew stronger, slowly turning him to the dark side. Meanwhile, Leia Organa Solo receives a warning message from her brother Luke. Determined to save him, Leia and Han Solo journey to Biss to save him. Upon reaching Biss, Leia and her team infiltrate Palpatine's citadel, but are quickly captured and brought before the Emperor and Luke. In Palpatine's quarters, Leia learns of the Emperor's terrifying plan to possess her unborn child, Anakin Solo, as his new vessel as that body wouldn't deteriorate. Luke, after meeting Leia, briefly breaks through his dark side conditioning to help his family escape, though he remains behind, believing he can best defeat Palpatine from within. Luke then attempts to destroy Palpatine's cloning facility, where the Emperor keeps multiple clones ready to receive his spirit when his current body fails. Despite destroying every clone except for one, Luke fails to prevent Palpatine from transferring his consciousness to a fresh body. The Emperor, restored to full power, defeats Luke, fully turning him to the dark side. He then goes on to deploy the Eclipse, a superstar destroyer with the super laser capable of destroying planets, to destroy the main New Republic base. The climax unfolds aboard the Eclipse, where Leia, after surrendering herself to Palpatine to get on board the Eclipse, returns to help Luke. Her presence helps Luke break Palpatine's hold, leading to a fierce confrontation where the siblings face the Emperor together. In a fit of rage, Palpatine summoned a massive force storm, intending to annihilate both his enemies and the New Republic base. However, Luke and Leia combine their powers, causing Palpatine to lose control over the storm. As a result, the storm turned against him, engulfing the Eclipse and leading to its destruction. Just before the ship was completely destroyed, the siblings escaped to safety aboard a shuttle. This marked what seemed to be the end of Operation Shadowhand, yet Palpatine wasn't defeated entirely. One final clone body remained, allowing him to transfer his essence and survive. With renewed determination, he set out once more to spread fear across the galaxy and crush any remaining resistance. Palpatine deployed his newest superweapon, the Galaxy Gun, a massive cannon stationed near Biss. The Galaxy Gun could launch hyperspace-propelled projectiles capable of destroying entire planets. Palpatine intended to use it as a final terror weapon to subjugate New Republic worlds. Shortly after, he completed construction of the Eclipse II, a second Eclipse-class Superstar Destroyer to serve as his mobile base of operations. The New Republic, learning of the threat, started an attack on Biss. During the attack, R2-D2 managed to steer the Eclipse II directly into the Galaxy Gun. The collision caused the Galaxy Gun to misfire, sending one of its devastating projectiles into Biss itself. The resulting explosion obliterated the planet, annihilating Palpatine's infrastructure and resources and dealing a massive blow to the Emperor's forces. Palpatine, however, survived and continued to pursue the Solos, desperate to fulfill his plan to possess Anakin Solo, the only body capable of keeping him alive. Following the destruction of Biss, Palpatine tracked Leia, Han, and their children to the jungle moon of Onderon, where they had taken refuge. There, Palpatine launched a final attack and overpowered Leia easily. As Palpatine prepared to seize Anakin Solo, Luke arrived with a small group of Jedi allies, including the Jedi Knight brand. In the ensuing battle, Palpatine unleashed a torrent of Sith lightning, critically wounding Brand. Han Solo managed to land a blaster shot on the Emperor, temporarily delaying him, but Palpatine's spirit left his body and made a final attempt to possess the infant Anakin. At that moment, the dying Brand made the ultimate sacrifice, intercepting Palpatine's spirit. Using the last of his strength, Brand bound Palpatine's essence to his own, dragging the Emperor's spirit into the netherworld of the Force. With the help of every ancient Jedi spirit, Brand imprisoned Palpatine in chaos, ensuring his final, irreversible death. With Palpatine's last body destroyed and his spirit eternally trapped, the Emperor's dark influence over the galaxy was finally ended. The New Republic, though weakened, was now free to rebuild without the shadow of the Sith looming over it. Luke, having narrowly escaped the lure of the dark side, recommitted himself to restoring the Jedi Order, determined to ensure that the dark side would never rise to such power again. The Jedi holocron Leia had taken from Biss proved invaluable in these efforts, as it contained the ancient wisdom needed to train a new generation of Jedi. From the uncharted depths beyond the galaxy's edge, they came. The Force Grand Admiral Thrawn was scared of, the Force from beyond the stars. The Vuuzhon Vong, a species so alien, so fundamentally opposed to everything the galaxy understood, that their arrival would forever change the course of history. This is the story of the most devastating conflict since the Clone Wars, a war that would claim trillions of lives, topple the New Republic, and reshape the galaxy itself. The Vuuzhon Vong were no ordinary invaders. They were religious zealots bound by an ironclad faith that celebrated pain and conquest. In their eyes, suffering was a path to honor, and their gods demanded the subjugation of all others. Their civilization had evolved around biotechnology, shunning conventional machinery as a vile affront to their beliefs. Instead of starships made of metal and circuits, the Vong wielded living vessels, pulsating organic armor, and weapons that seemed to breathe, grow, and hunger. Their devotion to conquest had destroyed their original galaxy in wars of self-destruction, leaving them as an itinerant force with a single mission: to claim and reshape a new galaxy for their gods. What made them even scarier was that they weren't connected to the Force, thus Force-based attacks were useless against them. For years, the Vuuzhon Vong prepared in secret, planting spies and saboteurs in key positions across the New Republic. They studied the galaxy's political fractures and divisions, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This moment came in 25 ABY, when the Vong launched a horrifying assault on the Outer Rim world of Cernpedal. Using their biotechnological gravity weapons, known as Dovin Basils, the Vong committed an unimaginable act of terror. They dragged Cernpedal's moon down onto the planet's surface, destroying it in a cataclysmic collision. Among the casualties was the legendary Wookiee Chewbacca, who sacrificed his life to save Han Solo's son, Anakin Solo, marking a devastating beginning to the invasion and the first of countless personal losses. In the face of this unprecedented threat, the New Republic struggled to respond. While the Jedi, led by Luke Skywalker, immediately recognized the gravity of the danger, the Republic's leadership was plagued by political infighting and skepticism. Many dismissed the Vong as a myth or exaggerated threat, unable to comprehend the idea of an extragalactic invasion. This delay in mobilization proved costly as the Vuuzhon Vong began their systematic conquest, advancing methodically through the Outer Rim and toward the galaxy's heart. The Vuuzhon Vong's tactics were brutal and unconventional, leveraging living warships and bioweapons that render traditional technology ineffective. They deployed Grutchins, biological swarms that devoured starship hulls, and thud bugs, living grenades that exploded on impact. The Vong's campaign was relentless, striking terror and confusion as they captured or destroyed one planet after another, the New Republic failing to even gather a single victory. The Hutts, out of opportunistic measure, at first aligned themselves with the Vong by allowing them free passage through their space routes. However, they secretly leaked intelligence about the Vuuzhon Vong's movements to the New Republic, attempting to maintain a precarious balance between both sides. The Hutt's strategy was to benefit from the invasion by securing favorable terms with the Vuuzhon Vong, while simultaneously positioning themselves to support the New Republic should the tide of the war turn. This duplicity allowed the New Republic limited insight into Vong attack patterns, though it did little to prevent further defeats. The fall of Duro, a heavily populated core world, sent shockwaves through the Republic. The Vong overran Duro's defenses, laying waste to its cities and using their biotechnology to poison its landscapes and transform it into a planet according to the Vong's image. The galaxy's leaders could no longer deny the gravity of the invasion, but by the time they acted, the Vuuzhon Vong had deeply embedded themselves in the galaxy, exploiting the Republic's hesitation and divisions. At the same time, their alliance with the Hutts fractured, seeing them starting to combat the Hutts and destroying a big part of Nal Hutta and conquering Hutt space. Having advanced deep into the known galaxy, they started to target the Jedi specifically, seeing them as blasphemers against their gods. Using bounty hunters, assassins, and biotechnological creatures, the Vong began hunting the Jedi, sacrificing those they captured in ritualistic displays of devotion to their gods. They also leveled the galaxy to trade in the Jedis for a ceasefire, thus promoting an Order 66-like scenario where a lot of Jedis were hunted once again. However, the ceasefire didn't last as the Vong prepared for their biggest assault yet, now that the Jedi are occupied. In a meticulously planned assault, the Vuuzhon Vong besieged the galactic capital Coruscant, throwing wave after wave of bioweapons and ships against its defenses. The Vong overwhelmed Coruscant's defense, and with chilling precision, they transformed the capital into Yuzhantar, a twisted, organic version of the former metropolis. The city world's architecture was reshaped by alien vegetation, and Coruscant itself became the Vong's throne world, symbolizing their conquest of the galaxy. In the wake of Coruscant's fall, the New Republic faced collapse. Reeling from political instability and a scattered military, they regrouped on Mon Calamari and reorganized as the Galactic Alliance, a coalition of surviving forces, neutral factions, and newly motivated allies. A get-together of the Mandalorians, Imperial remnants, and the New Republic. This new alliance embraced a more united and focused resistance, determined to repel the invaders. Meanwhile, the Jedi Order, isolated and under attack, took refuge in a hidden base on Eclipse Station, where they could continue their efforts against the Vuuzhon Vong without interference. The Galactic Alliance started striking back and, slowly but surely, started to gain some victories. With the arrival of Vergere, a former Jedi and Vuuzhon Vong captive, the Jedi Order gained a profound understanding of their enemy. Vergere's insights into the Vong revealed that their motivations stemmed from a deeply ingrained religious drive to purify the galaxy of what they saw as unclean beings, elevating their own species to superiority. As Jacen Solo trained with Vergere, he learned to view the Force beyond the conventional Jedi divisions of light and dark, understanding it as a unified field of potential. This new perspective helped Jacen uncover critical weaknesses in the Vong. He observed that some Vong experienced inner conflict and questioned the harsh doctrines of their leaders. Their powerful biotech, too, was vulnerable to specific forms of disruption, which the Jedi could exploit. The most startling revelation, however, was that certain Vong demonstrated a faint connection to the Force, challenging their belief in their own detachment from it. By recognizing and leveraging these vulnerabilities, Jacen developed a strategy to destabilize the Vong's confidence, cohesion, and morale in ways they hadn't anticipated. As the Jedi gained new insights into the Vuuzhon Vong, they uncovered the existence of Zonama Sekat, a sentient living planet with connections to the Force. This world has remarkable abilities, including the creation of living starships that were resistant to Vong bioweapons. Zonama Sekat's symbiotic culture resonated with the Vong's own organic technologies, yet it represented a peaceful, harmonious relationship with life, a stark contrast to the Vong's aggressive, destructive use of biotechnology. Realizing the importance of Zonama Sakat, Luke and the Jedi formed an alliance with the Living Planet. With Zonama Sakat's living starships bolstering their fleet, the Galactic Alliance began a counteroffensive to retake the core worlds. This collaboration offered a glimmer of hope as the living ships effectively countered the Vong and disrupted their seemingly unstoppable advance. The Galactic Alliance fleet surged along the Perlimian trade route, determined to end the war over Yuzhantar, the transformed Coruscant. In the epic battle of Yuzhantar, Han and Leia Solo heroically rescued hundreds of high-ranking Alliance prisoners. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker led a team of Jedi to storm Shimra's Citadel, where he defeated Supreme Overlord Jaman. Jacen Solo confronted and destroyed Onami, the true mastermind, by experiencing a state of oneness with the Force. With the loss of their leaders, the Vuuzhon Vong forces faltered. Recognizing their defeat, the surviving Vong leaders surrendered to the Galactic Alliance. In a surprising turn, they were offered sanctuary on Zonama Sakat, which hyperspace jumped to a remote part of the galaxy, allowing the Vong to begin anew in peace, far from those they had harmed, now embracing the Force as a part of their religion as well. This act of mercy concluded the war not in bloodshed but in understanding, offering the Vong a chance to abandon their destructive ways. The Vuuzhon Vong War left the galaxy scarred. Entire worlds lay in ruin, trillions had perished, and the New Republic had been replaced by the Galactic Alliance, a stronger and more unified government. The Jedi Order too emerged changed, embracing new philosophies on the Force. Jacen Solo's experiences with Vergaren Zonama Sakat led to the Jedi to question the rigid views of light and dark, ushering in a more open-minded approach to the Force and its mysteries. The Second Galactic Civil War began when Corellia split from the Galactic Alliance because they objected to restrictions and increased taxation for post-Vuuzhon Vong reconstruction. This defiance rallied other systems, forming a separatist faction known as the Confederation. The conflict quickly escalated, and the Confederation found itself in a war with the Galactic Alliance. With the new Jedi Order siding with the Galactic Alliance, the previous alliances from the First Galactic Civil War and the Vuuzhon Vong conflict was now all but fractured. Longtime allies now found themselves pitted against one another in a rapidly escalating war. During this time, Jacen Solo, Han and Leia's son, became increasingly disillusioned with the Jedi Order's effectiveness. After the Vuuzhon Vong invasion and a deeper understanding of the Force's duality, he embraced Sith teachings under the guidance of Lumia, an ex-Sith and former Imperial agent trained by Vader and Palpatine. Jacen believed that by embracing the Sith philosophy, he could enforce unity across the galaxy and prevent future conflict, ensuring a lasting peace. As the Second Galactic Civil War intensified, a decisive victory remained elusive, leading to prolonged and sporadic skirmishes against the Confederation. To tighten control, the Galactic Alliance formed the Alliance Guard under Jacen Solo, who enacted increasingly authoritarian measures, including the internment and assassination of dissenters. Jacen overthrew the Galactic Alliance Chief of State and became Darth Caedus after killing Mara Jade Skywalker. His methods, such as civilian surveillance, mass arrests, and deploying military force against opposition planets, won him powerful allies who wanted an end to the conflict, but deeply alienated others, especially within the Jedi and his own family, with them openly fighting against him henceforth. The war spread rapidly across the galaxy, with key battles fought over systems such as Kashyyyk and Fondor, where Caedus ordered orbital bombardments to quell resistance. This led the new Jedi Order to break away from the Galactic Alliance and form the Jedi Coalition, consisting of the Jedi and Alliance members not agreeing with their new ways, turning the war into a three-sided conflict. The Second Galactic Civil War had now evolved into a chaotic struggle between the Galactic Alliance and two rival factions, the Confederation and the Jedi Coalition. Darth Caedus, to strengthen his forces, had allied with the Imperial Remnant, but after Grand Admiral Palaeon was killed for resisting Caedus' ruthless orders, the Imperial Remnant defected and joined the Jedi Coalition. As the conflict intensified, Jacen's twin sister, Jaina Solo, emerged as his greatest threat. Recognizing that only she could potentially counter her brother, Jaina trained with the Mandalorians led by Boba Fett. This training prepared her for the eventual showdown with Caedus, whom she loved but understood had to be stopped. As the conflict raged between Caedus, the Jedi Coalition, and Confederation forces, Luke Skywalker devised a plan to set a trap, giving Jaina the chance to confront and kill her Sith brother. In a climactic showdown, Jaina engaged Darth Caedus in a fierce duel, ultimately defeating him and dismantling his new Sith Order. In his final moments, Caedus felt a brief surge of compassion for his daughter Alana and seemed to acknowledge the errors of his path. With his death, the Second Galactic Civil War ended. Following Darth Caedus' defeat, the combined forces of the Jedi and Alliance faction reclaimed Coruscant, ending Caedus' authoritarian rule and dismantling his grip over the galaxy. They installed Jagged Fel as the new leader of the Imperial remnant to keep them at bay, yet tensions lingered as the Confederation refused to rejoin. Darth Caedus' actions inadvertently awakened the powerful entity Abeloth. This war was the first in a century-long series of conflicts that would disrupt galactic stability once again, leading into the Sith Imperial War. Before the start of the Sith Imperial War, the galaxy was dominated by three key factions: the Galactic Alliance, the Jedi Order, and the Fel Empire. Each faction had a unique vision for the galaxy's future, but tensions simmered as the Galactic Alliance, weakened by its controversial defense of the Vuuzhon Vong, lost support from numerous member worlds scarred by the Vong invasion. The Vuuzhon Vong had sought redemption by using their advanced biotechnological expertise to heal and regrow war-torn planets, initiating a plan to restore life to worlds devastated by the prior invasion. However, these efforts were sabotaged by an unknown faction aiming to undermine the Alliance and deepen the galaxy's distrust of the Vong. As a result, the healing processes failed disastrously, fueling widespread resentment and solidifying opposition to the Alliance's stance on Vong integration. Frustrated and disillusioned, many worlds seceded from the Alliance, with some aligning themselves with the Fel Empire, which offered a more stable, imperialist vision. Emperor Roan Fel, after seeing the loss of support in the Galactic Alliance, went on to declare war on the Alliance. Unbeknownst to the galaxy, a new threat had emerged: Darth Krayt's Sith Order. Krayt, a former Jedi born on Tatooine named Asherad Het, had spent decades cultivating a new Sith ideology, the Rule of One, which abolished the traditional Rule of Two in favor of a single, absolute leader commanding a vast legion of Sith. His Sith manipulated the Vong's redemption project, infiltrated the Empire, and manipulated the Empire's leadership to enter the war. Despite Emperor Fel's mistrust of the Sith, the Moff Council, eager to gain an edge over the Alliance, embraced them. The Jedi Order, now led by Cole Skywalker on Ossus, the latest descendant of the legendary Luke Skywalker, attempted to calm the situation and preserve peace, but was ultimately drawn into the conflict to defend the Alliance and the integrity of the galaxy. In 128 ABY, the war intensified. The turning point came in the Battle of Camus, where the combined forces of the Empire and Sith delivered a crippling blow to the Alliance's fleet, forcing its eventual surrender and even taking control of Coruscant, and making big strides in winning the war. After taking Coruscant, the Sith unleashed a brutal assault on the Jedi Temple on Ossus. Krayt's forces launched a brutal assault that came to be known as the Massacre of Ossus. Cole Skywalker was killed, but his sacrifice allowed many Jedi to escape, scattering them across the galaxy. The surviving Jedi went into hiding, while some became guerrilla fighters. The Sith pursued them relentlessly, viewing the Jedi Order as a lingering threat to their rule. With the Jedi and Alliance in disarray, Darth Krayt made his final move, launching a palace coup against Emperor Fel and seizing the Imperial throne for himself. Establishing a Sith-led empire, Krayt sought total control over the galaxy. However, Roan Fel escaped, gathering loyalists and forming an alliance with the Galactic Alliance remnant and the surviving Jedi. This coalition reignited the flames of civil war as Fel's forces, Jedi survivors, and Alliance remnants fought to reclaim the galaxy from Sith oppression, plunging the galaxy into an extended and brutal struggle for its future. As Emperor, Krayt saw any resistance as a threat to be eliminated, including the Jedi and their sympathizers. To strengthen his control and eliminate any remaining allies of the Galactic Alliance, Krayt targeted Mon Cala, a world known for its loyalist history and its powerful shipyards, which had provided crucial support to the Rebel Alliance, the New Republic, and the Galactic Alliance. In a calculated move to crush potential resistance, Krayt ordered the genocide of the Mon Calamari population after learning that they continued to support Galactic Alliance remnant, which remained a thorn in the Sith Empire's side. In the Battle of Dak, Krayt unleashed a deadly bioweapon that would poison Dak's oceans. The virus wiped out a significant portion of the Mon Calamari population and sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Cade Skywalker, the last living Skywalker, emerged as an unlikely hero against the Sith Empire. Haunted by his father Cole Skywalker's death and his family's legacy, Cade had hidden his Jedi heritage, working as a bounty hunter and resisting the call to fight. Krayt was aware of Cade's unique ability to heal through the Force and saw him as a potential weapon, wanting to convert him to the dark side. After capturing Caed, Krayt attempted to break and convert him. However, Caed resisted, ultimately escaping and vowing to use his powers against Krayt. His defiance sparked hope across the galaxy, inspiring resistance for the remaining Jedi, Fel's loyalists, and even some scattered Sith defectors who saw Caed as a beacon against Krayt's darkness. Krayt himself, though, now the first Sith Lord to rule the galaxy as Emperor in over a century, was fighting his own battle. He was being plagued by Vong's slave implants that poisoned him, and Krayt endured constant physical agony, which was slowly killing him. He relied on the dark side to sustain himself, but his deteriorating condition intensified his desire to conquer death itself, a desperation that would ultimately shape his dark reign and fuel his obsession with Caed's unique powers. Darth Werlock, his assistant, while loyal to Krayt, began to harbor doubts about his master's ability to achieve his vision, and ultimately took matters into his own hands. In secret, Werlock confronted and seemingly killed Krayt, justifying the act as necessary for the stability of the Sith Order. With Krayt out of the picture, Werlock assumed control, declaring himself as regent and effectively ruling the Sith Empire. But Werlock's rule was short-lived. Though initially many Sith found his leadership pragmatic and continued to expand the Sith Empire, some Sith began to question his authority as rumors of Krayt's death spread. Werlock's governance was harsh and practical, but he lacked the charismatic and visionary draw of Krayt. Darth Krayt's unexpected return to power marked the beginning of the end for the Sith Empire. He emerged, having healed himself through dark side alchemy, and reclaimed his position, turning on Werlock and killing him in a dramatic confrontation. With renewed strength, Krayt launched a final campaign to eliminate all opposition, but the galaxy had already begun to rally against him. Caed, now emboldened, led a coalition of forces including the Jedi, Fel's Empire, and the Galactic Alliance Remnant in a united assault on the Sith strongholds. In a final confrontation of Coruscant, Caed and Krayt clashed in a fierce duel. Caed, drawing upon the strength of his lineage and his rejection of the dark side, managed to strike down Krayt. Yet Caed knew that this would not be enough to truly end the Sith Lord. Krayt's mastery of Sith alchemy and essence transfer meant he could return even from death, his spirit already clawing at Caed's mind with promises of possession. Determined to end the threat of Krayt once and for all, Caed made a final decision. With the help of his mother, he took her ship and set a course straight for Coruscant's sun, intending to incinerate himself and Krayt's body. As Caed approached the sun, Krayt's spirit continued to taunt him, claiming he would take Caed's body to achieve eternal life. But in Caed's darkest moment, the spirit of Luke Skywalker appeared, urging him to choose hope over fear. Strengthened by his ancestors' words, Caed escaped the ship in time, leaving Krayt's body to be swallowed by the sun's searing light. Darth Krayt, Dark Lord of the Sith, was finally destroyed, his life ending as it had begun, beneath the burning blaze of a distant, raging sun. The death of Darth Krayt fractured the Sith Order and weakened its hold on the galaxy, but the Sith remained a powerful faction. With Krayt gone, Roan Fel's Empire, the Galactic Alliance Remnant, and the Jedi began the difficult process of rebuilding. Though the Sith's reign had ended, its scars and influence persisted, leaving the galaxy far from unified or at peace. Caed Skywalker's victory brought a fragile hope, but many battles and stories remained. The Sith regroup in the shadows, the Jedi and Imperial loyalists rebuild, and the galaxy stands on the brink of new conflicts and alliances, awaiting the next heroes and threats to emerge. The galaxy's history is a cycle of war, peace, and ideological struggle, shaped by the clash between freedom and tyranny, light and dark. From ancient conflicts among Force users to the rise and fall of empires, each generation faces new challenges. While conflict endures, each war leaves its mark, driving species and factions to forge alliances, rebuild, and redefine their place in the galaxy, striving toward a fragile future of peace and stability.